Hey everyone, Milsurp Cat here, and today we're going to be talking about my Mark 22 Mod Zero Hush Puppy clone. Now this isn't a Hush Puppy, it's a Smith & Wesson Model 439. This is not a complete clone, but it's close enough to show you. Now it's an in-progress clone. So what is this gun first off? This is a double action, single action, 9mm pistol made by Smith & Wesson in the 80s. It has a decocker and a safety, also has a magazine safety. Now you'll see that this Model 439 looks a little different than other Model 439s. You'll see this thread barrel, and we'll talk a little bit about the modifications that I've made to this pistol, which is not that many. Okay, so let's talk about the Hush Puppy. The Mark 22 Mod Zero Hush Puppy was a pistol designation that the Navy gave to a heavily modified Model 39 made by Smith & Wesson. Now, the Model 39 is very similar to the Model 439. The Model 439 is different because it has a firing pin safety. But other than that, externally, it's very, very similar to the Model 39. And we'll talk about why I went with the Model 439 instead of a 39. Usually I'm more of a purist, but you'll understand why. So Smith & Wesson took the Model 39. They added a threaded barrel for a suppressor. They added a slide lock, not a slide stop, a slide lock, which prevented the slide from moving when firing to also dampen the noise. They added suppressor height sights. It looked kind of like this, but they were higher, so you could see over the suppressor. They changed the grips to these black grips, and the Navy did request that the frame be enlarged or modified to take a high power, an FN high power magazine or Browning high power magazine, which is a double stack magazine. Now the Model 39 is a single stack 8-shot pistol, and after Smith & Wesson modified it, those changes got incorporated into their Model 59, which is the fat brother of the Model 39. It's basically a double stack version of the Model 39. You'll see that the frame is a little bit fatter, and I'll have some slight different features, which will help you figure out how to identify the difference between a 39 and a 59. But now that Model 59 has a proprietary magazine, but it's a double stack magazine. So some of the modifications that they made for the Hush Puppy ended up getting incorporated into a commercial model called the Model 59. Okay, so let's move on to just some Smith & Wesson model definitions. The Model 439 is a second generation Model 39, and as I said before, has a firing pin safety. The Model 459 is the second generation of the double stack Model 59, and it also just has a firing pin safety. And interestingly, the Model 459 was one of the pistols that was entered into the XM9 trials, and we all know how that fared. It didn't win, but it did a pretty good job, but not as good as the SIG or the Beretta. I also believe that the Model 459, there's a special edition that they made just for the FBI. So there is some history on that gun. There's also a Model 539 and a 559. Those are the all-steel versions of these pistols, which would also be good for the clones. And then there's the third generation Smith & Wesson pistols, like the 5906, which is pretty popular, like a police trade pistol. But those are pretty distant, like distant relatives to these guns right here. Okay. So why did I go with a Model 439? Well, usually I am a purist and I would go with the pistol that it's actually based on, but the nice thing about the Model 439 is that it comes equipped with these adjustable sights. Now the 39 has adjustable sights, but the slide is milled differently and it doesn't have these winged sights. So for the Model 39, if you want to make it into a Hush Puppy clone, you'll have to weld over some of the milling and then remill it in order to install the Hush Puppy suppressor height sights. For this slide in particular, if they were to make a Hush Puppy reproduction sight wing, I would just have to take this off and put that reproduction sight wing on, but I would have to mill off the front sight and re-weld on a taller sight. The other thing that you'd have to do in order to make a clone is to get a slide lock, and the slide lock would require you to mill the slide and also get an unobtainium slide lock part, which no one makes those, right? Maybe someone will make them, who knows. Speaking of someone making them, the threaded barrel is also not a factory part that you can get. Greg Grips, a YouTuber who likes to cosplay as Solid Snake sometimes, he actually had these contracted out to be built, and he got a bunch of them and sold them. When I first heard of it, they were unfortunately sold out, but they came back in stock, and I ended up buying one, which kind of got me down this journey in the first place. I found the barrel, and the barrel's probably, it's one of the hardest parts to get for this gun because they just didn't make them commercially. So this has a 1/2 by 28 threading. I don't know what the original barrel had, but that makes sense because that's what most pistol suppressors are threaded to. And it did not come with this thread protector. I bought this afterwards, and this is a 1/2 by 28 thread protector, and it's 5/8 long, and none of the barrel is protruding. If you get the 1/2 inch one, some of the threads are protruding, so this is the way to go. And I also put an HK, one of those green O-rings there, and that stops it from coming off while you're firing it. So that's what I got. I got a threaded barrel for this gun, and that's really the only modification I made to this to get it to look pretty similar to the Hush Puppy. The other thing that the other thing I opted to do was that the 439 sometimes comes with an ambidextrous safety. I bought a used single side safety, and it just looks better that way to me. So I removed that, put this one in. With the 439, you'll need to know that the extractor type can be slightly different. This is the thinner original extractor from the Model 39. Some of the Model 39s actually have really long extractors too, but this is what the pictures of the Hush Puppy have. There's a fatter extractor that looks kind of more modern. Smith & Wesson made that temporarily, I think, for the Army trials that they went for. So some of the Model 439s will come with those fat extractors. If you want it to look closer to the Hush Puppy, I would opt to get one of these thinner ones. The last thing that I got for the gun is a set of new grips. There's a gentleman on eBay, I think his name's Tillander Grips. What he did was he took these grips, made a mold, and then cast them in high impact resin. I'm not sure I'd fully recommend them. I did buy them, but while I was cleaning the gun, I left the grips on a piece of paper towel with some rubbing alcohol on it, and it was just sitting on there for a few minutes. And when I pulled it off, unfortunately, the checkering got kind of gummy, and I don't really want to mess with. I know the resin was cured, but maybe it kind of uncured a little bit with the rubbing alcohol. Not exactly sure. Did not like the feeling of it. Not sure, how skin safe it was. So I went back to the wood grips, but I am looking for a new pair of grips. So the pair of grips that they put on were these plastic grips that I think were also molded. That's what Smith & Wesson looked like they did. But I think for a modern clone, the best option would be for someone to reproduce these grips, but to do it in a black G10. And Greg Grips was the one that made this barrel, and he does make custom wood grips for the 1911. I propose that his next project might be to make these grips in black G10. I would definitely buy a pair. And as for price of them, usually G10 grips can be between $75 and $100. I'd pay up to $150 for those because they're custom made, and there's all that work into kind of modeling it and then CNCing it. Anyway, so what do you think about making a clone like this? Are you interested in doing it? Leave a comment down below. If you have any questions about which Smith & Wesson to get, ask away. I would recommend either getting a I don't know, you can get anything. You get a 39, 59, 439, or 459. I opted for a single stack because I have smaller hands. It feels better. The Model 39 has this sloped back strap. The 59 has a straight one. It feels more like a brick, I think. And I think most of the pictures that I see of the Hush Puppy, although there were supposedly double stack Hush Puppies, most of the guns I see are, they look like the single stack one. So I think this one just looks a lot better. So let me know what you think. If you want to get a Model 39 or a Model 59. Okay, and if you like these videos, consider giving a like. This is going to be it for this gun for now, unless I get another part, but that's going to probably be in a very, very long time. But if you want to stay tuned for that, be sure to subscribe. All right, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.